Hey there everybody, Sage Popham here, founder of the School of Evolutionary Herbalism. And in our most recent student Q&A webinar, I got a really great question about giving gifts to an herbalist. And with the holiday season coming up, I thought it was a really fun question that I wanted to share with the greater evolutionary herbalism community. So, this week's post is really all about what are things that are good to have around as an herbalist. Maybe you want to give herbally oriented gifts to someone that that likes herbal medicine, or maybe you are just getting started on your path as an herbalist and want to share some gift ideas, or maybe you're setting up a registry or something like that and want to share things with family members or friends of good gift ideas. And so that's what this post is all about, just compiling what I see as being some really good things to have on hand, from wildcrafting gear to medicine making equipment to essential books that I think you really should have on hand, to ways of setting up your apothecary, and just kind of some of those material items that can be really helpful to have on hand. So if you're watching this anywhere other than my blog over at evolutionaryherbalism.com, be sure to head on over there to get the full transcript, and we'll, in the blog post there will be, all of this compiled into a nice, tidy, organized list of items, along with some links for where you can see some of these resources and some of these things that I'm going to be sharing about in this post. So I hope you enjoy this one on herbal gift giving. Number 12 from Amanda. My husband asked for my wish list for the upcoming holidays. I'd really like to have some supplies for herbalism. What supplies would you recommend a beginner herbalist? Well, that is a really fun question, especially with the holiday season coming up. I honestly wish I had a little bit more time to think it through, because I could probably put together a really amazing list of stuff that would be really great. But, the way that I would think about it in terms of, supplies and things like that goes is, I think in terms of medicine making, right? And what are things that would be really great to have to get your kind of home medicine making apothecary set up? Well, I think the first thing, and this is like a no-brainer Seja kind of thing, but is jars, right? I mean, we all need lots of jars. I would say both jars for preparing your medicine. So that would be like, depending on your amounts, I would say at the very smallest size, quart jars, going up from there, half-gallon jars. And if you really want to go for it, gallon jars. And you can use those jars for all of your macerations, for tinctures, for vinegars, for oils, for honeys, all kinds of things like that. So jars are super important. And then I would also say, what are your vessels for putting the finished product in, right? So, if you're making topical products, getting some of those little like salve jars can be really great to have a bunch of those. And amber glass, I would say all this should be amber glass for, the stuff you put the final product in. Some 1 ounce bottles with the droppers, some 2 ounce bottles with the droppers. That's really, really great. So yeah, your vessels basically. So you have your vessels for preparing medicine. You also got your vessels for bottling and storing the finished medicine. Alongside of that, I think it's really helpful to have some labels. You should always label everything. So I think getting a good pack of labels is always good to have on hand. One piece of equipment that I think is indispensable for the home medicine making situation is I would say a decent quality tincture press. Anyone that's serious about making their own herbal medicine, I think it is just 100% worth it to get a tincture press. Usually these are something with like a bottle jack that you pour your put your pressed herb in there, and then you're able to jack up a press plate on it with a whole bunch of pressure to squeeze every last drop of menstruum out of the herb that you're preparing as a medicine. It's just, you yield so much more. I think it's an indispensable piece of equipment. I know you can get them from Horizon Herbs. Rich Ochek makes some tincture presses. I also know the one that I have comes from the Longevity Herb Company, and I know they make a smaller sized one that's like probably a little more home herbalist size, whereas the other ones, they get really big and probably larger than necessary for the home medicine maker. So I think a good tincture press is great. I would say, your menstruums, like a whole menstruum list, to me would be, really good 95% alcohol or Everclear, or organic alcohol. I know you can order, you can get an account and order from the Organic Alcohol Company out of Ashland, Oregon. They make really great organic alcohol. You got to have 95% alcohol on hand, so that you can dilute that down to whatever percent alcohol would be really great for the herb that you're working with. I think having a decent amount of really good quality olive oil is good. Having a bunch of beeswax on hand for making salves. So you can do your infused oils, you can do creams, you can do salves, you can do vinegars. A big jug of good, like apple cider vinegar, I think is really nice. From that, you can make your vinegar extracts. You can do having some good quality honey on hand. That way you can do herbal infused honeys, but then you can combine those herbal infused vinegars and honeys to make what's called an oxymel. So that's really cool. So menstruums are good to have on hand. I would also say, a couple books if you're focusing, and I guess I'm taking your question more thinking in terms of like someone that's wanting to start making their own home herbal medicine. So to me, I think the best books on this one would be, I don't think my home medicine makers, the Herbal Medicine Maker's Handbook by James Green. Indispensable, really, really good. So Herbal Medicine Maker's Handbook by James Green. I use this one a lot. Herbal Medicine from the Heart of the Earth by Cheryl Tilgener. Great book. She's got this, like, in the back, she's got all of your preparations, your teas, making your tinctures, making herbal baths and hydrotherapy, making glycerites, how to make capsules, compresses, fomentations, collecting, drying, storing. She's also got a really great chart that tells you what the best percentage alcohol is to use for, she doesn't have every herb in the world in there, but she's got a lot of them in there. So those are two books that I would really highly recommend. I think they're must-haves for the home medicine maker. What else? If you wanted to get fancy, you could get a small distiller. So you could distill your own essential oils. That also gives you the ability to start preparing spagyrics. You did say you're a beginner herbalist, so that may not be a beginner's piece of equipment, but they are fun to have, and you can distill your own water and distill your own alcohol and distill your own essential oils. They're not as expensive as a lot of people will think. You can get a good simple home still for under $300, which a lot of people think they're like thousands and thousands of dollars. You can get a real simple setup for not too expensive. I always send people to Gary Stadler at heartmagic.com. He's got some really simple home still setups that you can use for very good price. Yeah, I think that's a really good place to start. I mean, obviously you'll need some plants to actually make into those medicines, but for that, maybe, I don't know, maybe a gift certificate to a bulk herb supplier. I don't know if they do that or not, but that could be a good suggestion there, just so you can get some plants to work with. And I would say that is a pretty good starting list of supplies. There's other things, when it comes to actually, if you're harvesting your own plants, or if you're maybe buying herbs in bulk, fresh especially, is having some materials to like process those herbs down. So at the very least, a good solid set of clippers. My good friend Chelsea shared with me the other day these awesome little clippers, because we were processing a bunch of herbs down the other day, and I just got really wicked blisters all over my hands, and she showed me these really sweet clippers that, like, when you squeeze them, they roll, like the handle kind of rotates and rolls in your hand to prevent you from getting blisters. I was like, what? I need one of those. That is awesome. So a good pair of clippers, a good pair of loppers. Harvest bags are really awesome. Actually, apple picking bags, they're kind of, you kind of strap them over your shoulders and you got this bag in front of you, so you can just pick right into a bag. Those are awesome. Really, really helpful for wildcrafting. So you kind of got your wildcrafting tools, but then you've got your processing tools. So, a Cuisinart, a food processor, can be a really good, simple thing there for processing herbs. Not everything will work well in that. That's usually better for more light leaves and flowers and things like that. If you are processing denser plant parts, if you really want to go top notch, the best thing for that is a hammer mill. Those are expensive though. Another thing that you can do, or a flour mill. Some people use flour mills. Then there's the old Vitamix, right? Vitamix can be a really useful tool to have. Sometimes you don't want to just run the herbs right in there, but you'll put it in with your menstruum and blend the herb up in with the menstruum. That can be a really valuable way of reducing your plants down to a smaller size. Some people actually use coffee grinders too, if you want to make like a really good smooth powder. Those coffee grinders can work really, really well. Obviously, they're usually pretty small, so you can't do like huge amounts. But that can be a really great way of rendering some herbs down to powders. And I think that's about it. I think that's a pretty extensive list of things. And Madeline, maybe we can make note of all of this and we can compile all of that into a resource. I think that could be a really fun resource to share with everyone. So maybe we can compile that little list, and maybe we'll add a little something more to it, and I'll maybe put that up on the blog or something for y'all to use as some recommendations for what y'all. Oh, and the other one is everyone should have a copy of Evolutionary Herbalism, right? Maybe you can put my book on your holiday list, and that'd be cool. Anyways, just joking, but I do want you to have my book because you're a student, and my book is like everything in my head. Not everything, but most everything is in that book, so it will serve you well. Okay.